Go.
Welcome, everybody. And yes, I am a new face on Toastmasters in the community. And I'd like to welcome you here today, along with my guest, Todd Maisel. Todd is a visual journalist, and he will be speaking to us about what he does and the importance of what he does for our community. So I would like to welcome you all here today to this wonderful show that we have planned for you. And Todd, I would like you to explain to our audience about what you do. Now, before we get into that, I would just like to say we met Todd last month when he came to our show to photograph what we were doing and share it with our city in AM New York. And if you haven't seen that article, I would like you to go to AM New York and look at that. But back to Todd. Todd, welcome, and I'd like you to tell our audience about what you do for our community.
Thank you for inviting me, Jane. I have been in this business 35 years. I more recently was a staff photographer, a visual journalist for the New York Daily News, and I was one of those 96 people that were laid off back in July. Today I'm an independent photographer and visual journalist, and I work for a number of organizations like AM New York, Newsday, and some of the more local newspapers in Brooklyn, Brooklyn Eagle, the Home Reporter, Spectator, and in Queens, the Queens Eagle. And so I now make my own schedule. I now do what I have to do to generate content and find things that go on in New York City. I both take the pictures, I do the video, I will write the stories in some cases. I have a lot of things that go on now, and the problem with that is, of course, my schedule is very unpredictable, but I'm doing and I'm adjusting to it because previous to the Daily News, yes, I was a freelancer.
So now that you're freelancing and you're getting to pick the stories that you would like to share with the community, how do you decide on things like that? How do you decide on what you're going to journal?
You know, it's funny you should ask that, because even when I was at the Daily News, a lot of the time I generated my own content. I didn't wait around for anybody to tell me, gee, you should go there, you should go there. I generated it. I listened to police radios and fire radios in my vehicle. I have a computer console in the car. My vehicle is my office. It carries tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment. It has Wi-Fi. It communicates with the world. I have to be able to see what's going on, the releases from the various political leaders, our elected officials, wherever they're coming from. There's a lot of ways that I generate content. And one of the things I want to bring to the public is that it's necessary. It's very necessary for the work that I do to be mobile. And I'm going to demonstrate and show you why that is. We need to get content out immediately. For it to be relevant to the public, it needs to get out to the public quickly. So I take pictures. I have to get it into the computer immediately. I have to be able to send pictures to the outlets that I'm working for. Especially nowadays that I work for a number of different outlets. I have to be able to get it to them because time is of the essence. In addition to needing to do that, it's more than a job for me. That's another thing. It's more than a job. It's a real mission. And I'm going to show you a couple pictures. I'm going to go right to 9/11 because 9/11 was a defining moment in my life. I saw things that I hope I never, ever see in my whole life. There was emotion, there was danger, there was I nearly was killed that day. It was a miracle. It was way beyond luck that I survived that day. I had to come to the aid of firefighters. I never dreamt that I would be carrying out the rescuers. I never thought that that was ever going to happen. In this last picture, it was Kevin Shea, who I found in the debris. Unfortunately, 2 of the people that are in that picture are dead now from cancer. It affected me in ways that you can't even understand. It was more than luck. It was a miracle that I survived. And because of that, and I'm not a religious guy. I believe in God.
Okay.
And it had to be more than that. And so now my mission is like a holy mission to me. It has so much more importance that I was given that second chance. So I do it with a lot of vigor and a lot of emotion. Let's go to the next group of pictures. In order to get around, I have to be able to be mobile. So I have to drive to the jobs in order to be significant, to be there when it's happening. This photo, for example, is a fire up on a roof. Well, the fire is on the roof. What am I doing up there? Well, that's where the job is. Right across the street, this was First Avenue. This was the fire in which a gas main exploded. It was hooked up improperly. People were killed. Building collapsed. This was important for people to know and to understand what was happening. And what I try to do is inform the public. And informing the public is a very important thing for us to do. For people to understand how the news affects them, how they can react to that, and what they can do to mitigate their impact on their families and their community. Let's go to the next group. Next group is from Hurricane Sandy. And the Hurricane Sandy pictures, this is Breezy Point. I barely was able to make it out there. The water was up to my waist in order to get there. This was Staten Island on the North Shore in Tottenville. And people were killed there because they didn't heed the warnings. And there were many warnings that day. This was one of my early warnings. When I saw what was going on the Belt Parkway by the Verrazano Bridge, and I saw the water coming up early, and I said, this is bad. High tide is at 8 o'clock, and this is what I'm seeing at 5:30. This is going to be significant, because they were already closing the highway down. And that was me at Hurricane Sandy after Breezy Point burned down. 110 houses burned. But we learned so much from these pictures. We learned so much from the coverage of that in addition to flooding, you get fires. It is dangerous to stay in your home. We learned that, and we teach it now to other people, and other cities now understand that even if you survive the flood, there could be fires, there could be wind damage, there could be a whole lot of things that can endanger your family and yourself. And so it's a lesson for our people.
Well, I appreciate this commentary, this speech that you gave today, because it's so enlightening. We don't always realize what it takes to document a story and the coverage that you do. So thank you for what you do for our community to educate us and to show us what is happening. And right now, I would like to introduce our second speaker of the day, Rachel Weiss. And Rachel is going to be speaking about the best way to stay healthy from our competent communicator speech. Number 3, get to the point. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Jane, and welcome as our host for today.
Thank you.
What I want to talk to you about is the best way to stay healthy. And I have the top 10 list. That top 10 list comes from the CDC, our national health system, my mom, and of course, personal experience. Number 10 is common sense, and common sense isn't very common. But you have to think about what's going on. If you feel sick, then you're probably sick. You know your body the best. And if that's true, you need to take precautions. Maybe that's staying home and not going to work. Or if you have to go out, think about others. Take a tip from our friends in Japan, where they are wearing dust masks so that the water that would be spewing from their mouth or their noses is self-contained and not being shared among the rest of the population. Cleanliness. Cleanliness is very important. I know many of us love those dust bunnies in the corners of our rooms, but those dust bunnies are a haven for disease to be able to hang out and hold on to those things that are going to make us sick. So we want to make sure that we clean the corners of our rooms, dust the floors, undust the tops of our cabinets, undust and wash the tops of our tables. Make sure that your countertop is clean. Make sure that your dishes are properly washed with hot water and soap. Cleanliness, as my mom would say, is next to godliness. Maybe not go that far, but having a clean environment where you work, where you live, is going to help make sure that you are healthy. Next is layers. You're saying, know your environment. When you're indoors, maybe you shouldn't be wearing your winter coat. But I'm doing this for a purpose because when we hit the weather that we've had the last couple days and last week and last month and what's going to be coming in the weeks ahead, you have to think about wearing layers. And layers come in many different shapes and sizes. You may have one glove with a liner because you need to protect those extremities. You're going to want to be able to have a coat that's going to be able to shed the water, shed the wind. And that's why the snaps are there, so the wind doesn't come through that zipper. You want to have a zipper that's opening at the bottom and on the top so you can adjust the heat because you don't want to be sweating. You want to be able to take off that layer and have another layer on underneath, and maybe having another layer on underneath. So that when it's hot, you can take off one of those layers, and when you start to feel chilled, you put the layers back on. You have to think about indoors as well as outdoors, so maybe you want to have a sweater. And when it starts to get warm, before you start to perspire or sweat, remember to take the layer off. If the layer gets damp, that dampness isn't good for you. That's going to cause your body to react and adjust, and it won't have the energy to fight off the disease, the viruses, the flus, the common cold. We want also to have proper hygiene. So I've gone number 10, common sense, which isn't very common. Number 9, cleanliness. And number 8, layers, both indoors and outdoors. So you don't need that Arctic parka unless you're going to be outdoors for 8 hours, because that might be just way too heavy and way too warm. And you want to be able to build up to that same level of Arctic protection using layers. Let's go into number 7. Number 7 is proper hygiene. And I know, you all know hygiene, but we have to think about it. If our hands have touched something that someone that's sick has touched, and then we touch our eye or our nose or put our fingers in our mouth because maybe we're nervous and we're biting our nails, we've just ingested that disease, that common cold, the flu, or a virus. We don't want to be touching those ears, those noses, the mouth, or any other mucous membrane with our dirty hands. We don't want to put contact lenses in our eyes in a public area, or put on our makeup in a public restroom, public sink, because we don't know what other things might be lying on that surface. And putting it into our eyes means that it's immediately going into our bodies. And we don't want to share makeup, girls. the things that are on your body has immune to. But sharing with someone else, now you've just given them that cold that maybe you got over 2 weeks ago. So be careful. And speaking of which, clean those doorknobs. Many of the stores you go to have a hand sanitizer or a wipe, and you can wipe off the carriage handle. Don't forget your steering wheel if you've been sick. And don't forget your pen or your pencil or any other utility tool, screwdriver, pliers, hammer, that you may have touched while you were sick. Proper use of hand sanitizer is important also. Many hand sanitizers have alcohol in them. That alcohol opens up the pores in your hand, allowing whatever's on your hands to be sucked right in to your blood system. So you may want to use hand sanitizer after you've washed your hands before you eat. But remember where your hands have been. And if you do use hand sanitizer, wait till your hands are dry before you touch something. Because again, if your hands are damp or wet, it's going to act as a conduit for that sickness to get into you. Be well hydrated. What does that mean? Drink 64 to 128 ounces of just pure water, clean, clear water, each day. Number 3, get 8 hours of sleep. Hopefully you can get to sleep by 10 p.m. Sleep is your body's way of dealing with disease, dealing with the toxins that your body has been exposed to, being able to clean things out. It needs that time to regenerate and renew the cells and get things back in sync and on top performance. Just like an engine in a car, it needs to have maintenance. Your body's maintenance cycle is when you're sleeping. So 8 hours of sleep is very important. And number 2, remember, if you're going to sneeze or cough, use that little point in your elbow and the cloth there to catch it. Your body wants to atomize. That means make the water droplets very, very small. And if you're not covering your nose or your mouth, it's going throughout the whole room. And now Lucy's going to get it, and Rich is going to get it, and Kevin's going to get it. And I know you like to share, but I don't think they want to share your cold. And I don't think you want to share your cold with them. And lastly, number 1, wash your hands. Wash your hands for 15 seconds. How can you do that? Well, one way is as you're washing your hands, count 1-1001, 1-1002, 1-1003, 1-1004, 1-1005, 1-1006. Or, if you like to sing Happy Birthday twice, 2 times. Happy Birthday being sung is about 7 seconds. Doing it twice gives you that 15 seconds. And when you wash your hands, use warm water and soap. Soap is very important because that's what's going to get that layer of dirt, that invisible layer of germs off your hands. And don't forget, not just the palms of your hands, but the tops of your hands, between the fingers, right? Remember, you want to be able to get all that and maybe go a little bit higher if you've been involved with something that may have encroached beyond your wrist. Best way to stay healthy? Common sense, cleanliness, layers, proper hygiene, clean the doors, knobs, and other handles that you might be touching, proper use of hand sanitizer, get 8 hours of sleep, sneeze into a cloth or a shirt sleeve at the elbow, wash your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Something you said at the very beginning of that speech reminded me of something I experienced this week. My father was ill. My mother called me and said he was too sick to go to the doctor. And my new saying is, if you're too sick to go to the doctor, you really need a doctor. So I have a new way of thinking about being ill and taking care of ourselves. I happen to be our next speaker, and I am speaking from the entertaining speech. I am speaking about the law of attraction. And you may not normally think that the law of attraction could be entertaining, but I have found certain things about this law that can be very entertaining to our mind and our well-being and to other people. So the law of attraction is about us thinking about the things that we want, thinking about the things that we desire. Maybe it's something that we need. So now what would we use to accomplish using the law of attraction in our lives? And the first thing we would use is our imagination, and using our imagination for the things that we want. You can think about $1 million and picture $1 million and think about $1 million. One of the things you can picture is a new car. You can imagine a new car, the color that you want. You can go one step further. You can go to the car dealership and sit in that car. Feel what it's like to be driving that car. Another thing that we can use is dreaming. Now, dreaming and imagination go hand in hand. But picture yourself that you are on this magnificent vacation. You know, sometimes as you're sitting in your favorite chair, you could let your mind wander and dream about what it would feel like to be on the plane to your favorite destination. You can picture where you are. I picture myself in Italy most of the time because I happen to love that country and I love to visit Italy. So I picture myself on the Amalfi Coast, sitting at a cafe with a cup of espresso, looking over at the water, at the Mediterranean Sea, watching the ships go by, looking at the yachts, picturing myself on one of those yachts, and enjoying the weather, the sun, and the stars. One of the most beautiful skies I've ever seen was on a boat in the Mediterranean when we were in the north of Sicily. I never saw as many stars as I did that evening. And so I dream about that, imagining what it would be like to be there again. And then the thought of creating anything that you want. If you dream it, you could feel it. You can have it. You know, when we're children and we daydream, the teachers would say, stop daydreaming. Stop letting your mind wander. I disagree with that. I think we should encourage our children to daydream. I think we should have a class in teaching them to dream about what they want to be like, where they would want to be in their lives. I know right now I wish I could take a class on daydreaming, where I could just spend my time dreaming about the things that I want, and then writing it down so that we can always look at that and how we would build the life that we would want. Journaling your dreams and your imagination makes it clearer to your subconscious mind that that's what you want. So the law of attraction is putting it out there into the universe so that that comes back to you, letting the world know, letting the universe know of your dreams. Now, there is a positive and a negative to this. Some people think of the negative. They think of, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get into a car accident, I'm going to fall. You need to dissociate from those negative thoughts, because the way you can put the positive thoughts into the law of attraction, you can put the negative thoughts into the law of attraction. So it's very important that when you are utilizing the law of attraction, you utilize it positively. And you use it so that it's the things that you desire, that you want most out of life. You can only, there is a song, I can only imagine, what it's like to see Jesus. And I've imagined that time in my life when it may come to an end. My imagination is at its most, the top, that it thinking about what life may be like in the next realm, in the next universe. I dream about these things. But most people here on earth, we're dreaming about the things like money, or a better job, or better things for their children, or to have children, or not to have children. These are the choices that we make and we think about. So I dream about the places I want to go, the jobs that I would like to have. And I encourage you all to dream. Use your imagination in the law of attraction. And if you would like to know more about this, there's a movie, The Secret. It's a great movie about utilizing the law of attraction in our lives. And I want to thank you today for joining us, for listening to me. Right now, I would like to introduce Sue Brooks. And Sue's title of her speech is Lighten Up. Welcome, Sue Brooks.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster, those of you in the audience and those of you at home. Lighten up. It's not about weight loss, and it's not about your mood. What I'm talking about is all the things you have laying around your home. That's right. I remember with great fondness, several shows ago, Lucy Kahn did a speech about all her stuff and the things she had and the different bags, boxes, and bins where she wanted to keep, discard, donate. So I thought, what a great time of the year, the beginning of the new year. Oh, wow, it's February 2nd already. We're way past the new year. So before you think about lightening up, think about the reasons. I know that my reasons may be different than your reasons for lightening up. You might have to first consider, before you start ripping apart and pulling apart and throwing this out, think about why you're doing it. Are you doing it to make more space? Are you doing it to create more room? Is somebody moving in? Is somebody moving out? Do you just have piles and piles and piles of things and it's getting so cluttered? So think about the reasons that you want to lighten up. We're all very much aware of the comedian George Carlin, who said, you have this amount of stuff and this stuff and this stuff, and pretty soon you need more room for all the stuff, and it becomes overwhelming. And then, of course, there's efficiency expert Marie Kondo with her New York Times best-selling books, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and her TV specials, where you're encouraged to pick up an object and ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Does this spark joy? If not, toss it. Say thank you for your